The ravens arrive across Westeros within the same hour, their seals intact, their handwriting identical, their message brief enough to feel deliberate rather than rushed. The prophecy that justified the last war is no longer considered authoritative. All claims derived from it are suspended. Until further notice, legitimacy is a political matter, not a divine one. The lords read the message 3 times, not because they misunderstand it, but because each sentence removes a rule they have lived under for years. At Winterfell, Sansa Stark lowers the parchment slowly and looks at the men around her. No one speaks. The silence lasts just long enough to be dangerous. Finally, a bannerman asks the question everyone else is thinking. "If the prophecy doesn't matter," he says, his voice echoing in the cold hall, "why are we still marching south?" Sansa does not answer immediately, because any answer she gives will define her power from this moment forward. She looks at the hearth. The fire is low, casting a pale bluish tone across the stone. Choice has returned to the north, and choice is a heavy burden. In King's Landing, the reaction is not chaos but hesitation. Commanders delay issuing orders they would have sent without thought the day before. Courtiers pause before bowing, measuring the room, watching who bows first. Petitions pile up unanswered because no one is certain which authority will still matter tomorrow. Daenerys Targaryen notices it first. During a council session that ends without a single firm decision, she watches her advisors trade glances instead of oaths. She still sits the Iron Throne, still speaks with the sharp authority of a conqueror, but every command is now followed by a shadow of a question disguised as a clarification. When the room finally empties, only Tyrion Lannister remains behind, his footsteps echoing on the cold floor. "Say it plainly," Tyrion tells her, his voice small in the vast, echoing throne room. "They're not afraid of fate anymore, Daenerys. They're just afraid of you." The queen does not argue. She does not unleash her dragon's fire. She simply stares at the empty doorway. She already knows. 6 months earlier, her rule was uncontested because the prophecy transformed politics into a waiting game with a known ending. You aligned yourself with destiny or positioned yourself to be erased by it. That clarity removed choice, and without choice, rebellion never organized. Now, the Citadel has dismantled the lie. The prophecy was not discovered. It was assembled. Revised during succession crises, clarified during wars, strengthened whenever obedience weakened. It was not written to predict the future. It was written to stabilize the present. Daenerys assumes the problem is discipline, not legitimacy. And discipline, she believes, can always be restored through force. Her response is immediate. The prophecy is reaffirmed publicly. Arrest orders for heretic mesters are issued quietly. "You're proving their fear for them," Tyrion argues, his shadow long against the dragon's stonework. "You're turning doubt into coordination." Daenerys ends the discussion, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Then they will coordinate faster and die sooner. The logic is sound. If the war ends quickly, legitimacy becomes irrelevant. History forgives winners. At first, the strategy works. Cities comply because resistance still looks expensive. But the nature of obedience has already changed. Soldiers are no longer fighting because they believe in her future. They are fighting because they fear her present. Compliance is now transactional, and transactions are renegotiated the moment leverage shifts. But the cracks in the foundation are not limited to the mainland. They reach across the Sunset Sea to the shores of Pike. In the Iron Islands, Theon Greyjoy reads the Raven alone. He does not smile. He does not frown. He unfolds an old map, instead salt-stained, hand-copied, showing a time before dragon banners dominated the seas. "We were beaten, not destined," he whispers to the salt air. "If there is no chosen house, then the Ironborn were never meant to kneel." For the first time in years, Theon allows himself to think not as a hostage, not as a ward, but as a ruler. He realizes that a dragon is just a beast, and a beast can be bled. While Theon dreams of salt and sea, the Iron Bank of Braavos is already moving. In a candlelit counting house, the bankers strike through the word prophecy on their ledgers. They treat the Targaryen claim as a devalued currency. Loans once justified by inevitability are downgraded. Interest rates climb. Wars grow expensive not because armies grow larger, but because certainty has disappeared. Uncertainty has interest rates, and the Iron Throne is suddenly deep in debt. The shift becomes visible in the north first, where the air is thinnest and the myths are oldest. Jon Snow does not denounce the prophecy, nor does he defend it. He simply stops using it. He removes the song of ice and fire from his vocabulary as if it were a weapon that had finally rusted through. In the Great Hall of Winterfell, under the cold, flickering light of a dozen hearths, the atmosphere has changed. Sansa Stark watches from the high table as Jon leans over a massive table covered in parchment. The songs of ancient heroes that used to echo in these rafters have been replaced by the scratching of quills and the low murmur of logistics. Legends have been replaced by inventories. Destiny has been replaced by data. "We aren't marching because the stars align, Sansa," Jon says, his voice flat as he points to a map of the neck. He isn't looking at the sky. He's looking at the mud. "We're marching because the southern granaries are full and ours are empty. If we stay here, we starve. If we move, we survive. It's that simple." Sansa notices the change in the men immediately. They aren't looking at Jon with the wide-eyed awe of people following a promised prince. They are looking at him with the sharp, calculating eyes of soldiers following a commander who knows the weight of a grain sack. Later, as they walk the battlements in the sharp, Sansa stops and looks at the courtyard below. She watches a captain question a scout port, something that would have been unthinkable when they were all bound by the destiny of the Stark name. "You're teaching them to question you, Jon," Sansa says, her voice tight. She understands the danger of a world without a story to hold it together. "You're stripping away the myth that made us untouchable. If you aren't the chosen one, then you're just a man, and men can be replaced." Jon does not deny it. He doesn't even look away from the white waste beyond the walls. "I'm teaching them why I'm right," he answers calmly. Prophecy was a shortcut, Sansa. It allowed us to be lazy. It allowed them to follow us without thinking. But if I ever stop being right, if my logic fails or my maps are wrong, then they should stop listening. Our lives depend on them being smart enough to know the difference. This conversation marks a shift that no royal decree can reverse. By removing the divine right, Jon has inadvertently introduced something far more destabilizing than rebellion: agency. Soldiers begin evaluating orders instead of sanctifying them. They check the supply lines themselves. They question the scout reports. Discipline holds, but the blind belief that once acted as the glue of the North begins to drain away. It is not chaos. It is the cold, hard light of a world that has finally grown up. And once agency enters the system, the prophecy is not just a lie, it is irrelevant. In the Sept of Baelor, the High Septon listens as the message is read aloud, then asks for it to be read again. "Very well," he says, closing his eyes. "The faith will not oppose the revelation. It will interpret it. Meaning has always been more powerful than truth. The faith begins to preach that the prince was never a person, but a process the church must control." The dilemma locks into place. Westeros cannot return the prophecy without admitting it was a tool of control. It cannot move forward without accepting permanent instability. Strength without legitimacy creates tyranny. Legitimacy without certainty creates fragmentation. The prophecy once postponed accountability by promising an ending. Without it, mistakes cannot be blamed on fate. Power must now explain itself every day. The realm does not collapse into chaos. It becomes something colder and more dangerous. A system where no authority is final, no alliance permanent, and no future guaranteed. History moves forward, regardless of our need for a story. And this is where the story must stop, not because the conflict has ended, but because the real conflict has finally begun. There is no promised ending left to hide behind. Only choices. And every choice will cost a kingdom.